Hi everyone. Today I wanted to discuss with you the law of demand. There are three terms that I think are fairly important for you to understand as we get into what the law of demand is and how it applies to the supply and demand model. First, we have quantity demanded. This is the quantity of a good that consumers are both willing and able to purchase. Next, and probably most obvious of these three, we have the law of demand. The claim that all else being held equal, the quantity demanded of a good decreases as the price of that good increases. Now, it's going to be important that you also understand that the quantity demanded of a good will increase as the price of that good decreases. And this is one of the main reasons why we expect for there to be a downward sloping demand curve. This brings us to the demand curve. This is a graphical representation of the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded of that good. Now, all three of these are fairly intuitive, especially if you have already managed to work your way through the first couple of weeks of your macro or microeconomics course. Now, what separates demand from quantity demanded? When we think of what might cause a change in demand, we are going to be expecting one of these factors. Sometimes they are referred to as shifters of demand to be changed. Now, those include income, prices of related goods, tastes and preferences, consumers' expectations, and the number of consumers in a market. Now, what causes a change in quantity demanded? Well, this is going to be a change in price when all five of those aforementioned factors of demand are being held equal. The important takeaway from this is that those factors of demand, if they change, are going to cause a shift in that demand curve. A change in quantity demanded is depicted as a movement along that demand curve. Now, how is this depicted? Well, demand being shifted is going to be seen as D1 shifting to either D2 or to D3. If there is an increase in demand, D1, or our demand curve, is going to increase and shift rightward to D2. If there is a decrease in demand, D1 is going to become D3 because there is going to be a leftward shift of our demand curve. Quantity demanded, this is going to be that movement along the demand curve itself. So depending on if prices are increased or decreased, we could see our quantity demand shift from point A to point B or to point C. Now, how does the law of demand apply here? Well, if we recall from the earlier slide, this is the claim that states that all else being held equal, the quantity demanded of a good decreases as the price of the good increases. So if we are at point A on our demand curve, we're just going to have a P1 price and a Q1 quantity. If we were to see an increase in the price from P1 to P2, we would see a movement along that demand curve from point A to point B, and we would be left with a lower quantity because our quantity would change from Q1 to Q2. Now, if we were to experience a decrease in price and go from P1 to P3, we would see that point A move rightward on that demand curve or downward to point C, where we would have an increase in quantity. Q1 would shift or move to Q3. I hope that answers some of your questions that you might be having about the law of demand and how it applies to the demand curve itself. Stay tuned for additional helpful videos about micro and macroeconomics. Thank you.